When you hear the name Mel Gibson, a lot of things might come to mind. Some of them good, some of them not so much. But one thing's undeniable. Mel Gibson is one of the most influential and controversial figures Hollywood has ever seen. And here's the twist a lot of people forget. He's Australian, or more accurately, he became Australian. Mel wasn't born in Australia. He was born in Peekskill, New York, number 6 of 11 children in a devout Catholic family. But after his dad won a legal settlement, the Gibsons packed up and moved to Australia in 1968, partly to escape what his father saw as a decaying American society, and partly to avoid his eldest son being drafted to Vietnam.
In meeting Mel Gibson, you're also meeting a man who's described himself as a citizen of the planet.
Oh, God.
That's a nice kind of term. Did you really use it, and what would it mean to you?
Well, I guess I said that. I guess it meant that everyone if you are acquainted with two different countries, it's like someone asking you, what football team do you go for? And you must have a side. Well, or you must prefer one to the other, and like betraying one, as it were.
And you would prefer not to choose then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the need to.
So Mel arrived in Australia at the age of 12, and he never really looked back. He trained at NIDA, Australia's most prestigious acting school, alongside future legends like Cate Blanchett and Judy Davis. But even then, Mel stood out, not just for his looks, although, let's be honest, he was absurdly good looking, but for his raw intensity. He had a kind of coiled energy beneath the surface, charming, unpredictable, even dangerous, and Australia loved it. At just 23, he starred in Mad Max, a low-budget dystopian film shot mostly in the Australian outback. It was chaotic, brutal, and groundbreaking. Mel barely speaks in the movie, and yet his presence is magnetic. Mad Max didn't just make him a star in Australia, it turned him into a cult icon around the world. And it was Aussie as through and through. Gritty, inventive, made on the smell of an oily rag, with Gibson as the brooding heart at the centre. But Mel didn't stop at post-apocalyptic action. In Gallipoli, he gave a heart-wrenching performance as an idealistic young soldier in World War I. It's still considered one of the greatest Australian films ever made, and it cemented Gibson as more than just a pretty face. He had range, he had depth, he had something that Hollywood just couldn't ignore. By the late 80s, Mel had made the leap. Hollywood came calling and Mel answered with a smirk and a mullet. Enter Lethal Weapon. Martin Riggs, a suicidal cop with a haunted past and a twisted sense of humour. It was perfect for him. Gibson brought a kind of manic vulnerability that hadn't really been seen in action movies before. He wasn't just a tough guy, he was human, broken, funny, dangerous, and impossible to look away from. Then came the crown jewel, Braveheart. He directed it, starred in it, co-produced it, and won 2 Academy Awards, including Best Director. It was ambitious, brutal, poetic, and very, very personal. In many ways, it was the ultimate outsider story, a man from the margins rising up against an empire. And that outsider spirit, that came from Australia. Because even though he was born American, Mel Gibson became who he was in Australia, the land of underdogs, of rebellion, of doing things your own way. But fame so often isn't a straight line, and Mel's story took a very dark turn. Over the 2000s, his personal life began to unravel. He made headlines for all the wrong reasons: DUI arrests, shocking anti-Semitic and misogynistic outbursts, public meltdowns. The industry turned on him. He went from Oscar-winning director to pariah almost overnight. And honestly, a lot of people thought he was done. He was dropped by his agency, WME. Movie projects were cancelled. Even Leo DiCaprio bailed on him. But in 2016, after laying low for a few years and dabbling in B-movies, Mel Gibson came back. Money trumps principle in Hollywood, so he was able to direct Hacksaw Ridge, the true story of a pacifist medic in World War II who saved 75 men without firing a single shot. It was everything people had once loved about Gibson's work: brutal, spiritual, beautifully crafted, and deeply human. And the industry took notice. The film earned 6 Oscar nominations, and just like that, Mel Gibson was back in the room. Following that, in 2017, the family comedy Daddy's Home 2 that Gibson headlined made $180 million worldwide. Despite apologising for his behaviour more than once, I'm not convinced that Mel Gibson is the changed man he claims to be. I mean, really, do leopards actually change their spots? That aside, however, it comes down to whether you're willing or able to separate the art from the artist. And it's perfectly okay to admire someone's work without liking them as a person. Ultimately, Mel Gibson is not easy to categorise. He's a gifted actor, a visionary director, and a deeply flawed human being. And whether you love him or loathe him, you definitely can't ignore him.
I think he's a very intense, very unusual, eccentric guy. Like, just being around him, you get this sense of his energy. It's all over the place. Like Riggs
Even
from,
now.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
now.
Yeah, from Lethal
Yeah,
Weapon.
I don't have that.
Like, a lot of that, I think, probably came, like, that character probably came from, like, the dark inner workings of Mel Gibson's mind.